What's up, air gunners? Let's talk long distance shooting stuff, 150 yards plus. There's a lot of videos out there. I think it's Good Old Boys, Whiskey 68, you name it, guys shooting 200-300 yards. But the things they're not showing you, the things you need, and kind of the mindset, if you're going to continuously improve and shoot longer distances, 200, 300, 400 yards, you're going to need the gear, you're going to need some mindset with that. So let's get into this. I'll go over the first thing is, goes without saying, an accurate gun. Something that shoots 50, 75 yards, 100 yards, kind of close to MOA. Now, MOA is not necessary, but you need something that groups. There's maybe some people out there shooting 2, 3, 5-inch groups at 100. That's going to be tough. You're going to be really stretching out there because things really start falling apart with air guns past 150 yards. And yeah, and if you don't have it together at, let's say, 75 and 100, you're going to be in for, some frustrating times. So once you get the gun, it doesn't matter. You just know that what kind of you have to hit at that range. We talk scope. Scopes are funny. There's first focal plane, second focal plane. Don't worry about that. We won't get into that. But just know you want a highly adjustable scope, kind of something high quality. When they talk MOA adjustment, MOA adjustment is it's kind of tough because we'll say 50 MOA or 20 MOA, 30 MOA. What that means is how much it can go up or down. So if you have a center right in the middle, you can really only go down half of the MOA that they tell you, because really that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to set the scope down and the barrel up to get the trajectory because of the massive slug drop. So scope with 50 MOA really has 25 MOA adjustment, meaning they can go down to aim the gun up, and just know that. So you want to try to get a scope with the highest MOA, try to get the highest quality scope you can, but just know if you see stuff with 20 MOA, you don't have a whole lot to play with it. In addition to that, a nice scope, you can get some things built into the scope rings. This actually has a 20 MOA scope drop, MOA advantage. So in addition to the 25 MOA I have on the scope being able to go down, the scope rings give me another 20 MOA. Okay, so now we're, at 45 MOA totally. Now we're starting to talk. You're gonna need as much MOA drop as possible, adjustment for your gun when you're shooting long distance. Just know that some of these guns or some of these scope rings have the adjustment built already into it, so it helps you out. In addition to that, the rail mount system. Impact have an additional 20 MOA on that, so it points down. That allows you, the nice thing, that allows you to get more of that. So if we go 20 MOA, another 20 MOA, and another 25 MOA, we're at 65 MOA right off the bat. That gives us a great deal of elevation, being able to kick this slug way up in the air and actually get some distance on that. So some of the things you can look for, if you do not have a built-in, for instance, this Daystate doesn't, a lot of the Daystates do not have MOA, but already installed on the rail. They have like a dovetail. You can buy these exterior like mounts that have MOA built in it, like a 20 MOA drop. You can go ahead and buy that as well. So either way, there's usually a way around this to get some elevation. In addition to that, they have something called a cold shot, which is like that's the Maserati. That's the Rolls Royce of getting your MOA. It's a separate piece. You can get 480 MOA, I think, off that setup. It's like $500-600. It's super crazy expensive. Just know that if you need the elevation, it can cost you. I'm thinking for what most people are going to try to do, you have 65 MOA adjustment. You should be fairly decent, out to at least 250, 300. In addition to that, a nice gun mount. You can use sandbags, you can use all this. This kind of adjusts it. I like this setup. It doesn't move very much. And believe me, you need something to stack your gun in to get just to get rock solid, because, bipods with sandbags, that will work. Just mount it down there. If you're trying to go freehand, you're going to be in for a long haul. It's going to be very sporadic because you don't know if you wiggled, but you want to take all the variables out, shake. And with 25 power scope, which this is, you can see every shake the gun makes at that power, even locked into this little sled. Yeah, you're going to see that. But just know that's the setup you're going to need. In addition to that, you got to get rid of pellets. You got to have a gun. You go with this, something that shoots slugs, these high, BC or somewhat high BC slugs. That's going to get you out there. 100 yards with pellets, that's about the max. They start really starting to do weird stuff, especially when they hit the wind. And we'll log that. We'll talk about the logs and that. But yeah, 100 yards, pellets are decent. Past that, it starts really kind of starting to fall apart. Just know you need some quality ammo with a high BC, usually .065 to 1.3 is what the standard industry right now is running for slugs. But you're going to need that because that helps out immensely with your bullet drop that you're going to be shooting at. So now that we got that, we got the ammo, the gun, the sled, all that, let's talk about trying to zero this thing in. There is an application called Street Lock, and basically this is the heart of all aiming long distance. I use this pretty much exclusively. Once I figure out, now this gun has a chrono on it, and sadly that's going to have to be your next item to buy. FX has a small little chrono you can buy for about 150 bucks. You can get them for 100 to 200. I like this day state one because it's really small. You can mount it and it connects to just about any iPhone and it reads it out for you and it gets capture string and all this great stuff. The reason why I say you need a chronograph is because to figure out the bullet drop or the slug drop, you're going to need the ballistic coefficient off the can. You're going to need to know that, and you're going to need the speed of the slug shooting out of your gun. Once you have that information, you can use this application called Street Lock, which essentially is going to tell you how much it's going to drop, how many inches it's going to drop, and how many inches it's going to get blown around in the wind. So if you calculate your 8.5 wind to the west or to the south, and you're shooting 250 yards, it's going to tell you, hey, you're going to drop 200-300 inches. And this application, Street Lock, is very cheap, very affordable. It actually has a ton of different scope settings in here to where it will bring up this scope setting and show me exactly. If I have a 55-yard zero, it shows me where I need to aim if I'm aiming at 200 yards. I just click it in or use the mil dot and just shoot it off there, and it does a great job. East, west, south, the wind blowing, it will tell me that. And guess what? We're not done buying equipment because we have a couple other items. First of all, a wind meter. This is probably $40 to $50. They have some that program into your phone for Street Lock that will give you a really accurate meaning. And it actually, the wind, if it captures the wind south, it programs it into Street Lock to automatically enter that data for you. So you got a chronograph, you got a wind gauge, and lastly, the thing to buy, or second to last, is a rangefinder. So if you ever have shot a bow, you know that if you're shooting and you think it's 30, or if you think it's 50 yards, and it's, or if you think it's 30 yards and it's 50 yards, you know your arrow is going to hit the dirt. Like it's going to drop like a rock. The thing is, you got to remember, if you're shooting out to 200, 300 yards and you're using this kind of low BC airgun stuff, if you're 50 yards off, 25, you're going to be way off. You're going to be 20 inches off the mark. You just have to nail the yardage. So essentially, that's what you enter into Street Lock. You enter in the yardage, your ballistic coefficient, your wind speed at the barrel, and hopefully it's do it all. You got your gauge, you got your sled, and you let it rip. In addition to that, one last item. So you have a 25 power scope. Most scopes go up to maybe 50 power. That seems like a lot. But when you're shooting out there that far, it goes very, it's hard to see the target and very clearly. So this is a 25 power scope. There's a lot of times I'll hit, maybe a plate that far at 200-300 yards, and I can't see what I hit. I know I hit it, but I can't see really good detail. You need a spotting scope or spotting binoculars, something with 50, 60, 80, 120 power. You can use something cheap. They're not that bad. You can use the Nikon 9P50, which has like a 100 power recording camera, which then you can kind of record the path of your projectile and look it up. If it's spiraling, what is it doing at that rate? But just know you're going to need some kind of spotting device to look to see where you're hitting if you're going out super, super far, because a lot of times we just see, I hit a tin can, but I can't tell where I hit it, and just know that. So that's the gear. So let's talk about the psychology of this, what people kind of make a mistake. People go out and they constantly try to shoot their personal best. It's like golf. They go out and try to shoot a better score. But if you ever seen any pro golfers or any people that shoot, they practice. And that's it. So there's three types. There's basically two types of days. There's calm days that you set your personal best, or you go super long distance and you try to hit something at 300-400 yards. And then there's the windy days. So here in Nebraska, we have windy days. About every 3 weeks we get a calm day. That's not an exaggeration. That's the day that you try to set your MOAs, your personal best records for tightest groups or your longest shot. The other days, a lot of people won't even go out. They're like, it's windy, I'm not going to go out. Well, that's the day you learn. That's the day you really test your equipment and your ballistics and everything. And I'll give you an example. This is the Holler 20 grain 22 slug. It's great up to 150 yards and it outperforms accuracy over my knockouts at 150 yards for accuracy, slightly. But at 160 yards, at 170 yards, this falls apart. At 200 yards, it's keyholing into targets. And especially if there's any front wind, side wind, it starts getting destabilized. But up to that point, 100, 125, 150, it's pretty accurate, and I really like it. I can shoot it at lower power and get a lot more shots. The knockouts come in past 150. 200 yards, it's much more accurate than the Day State Howlers, which is, I think that's a 25 grain. The BCs are better. It just stabilizes better in wind over the Howlers. The only way you're going to know this is to kind of shoot and fail. And that's where this log comes in. The last thing you want to do is get a log, note the wind temp, the wind direction, what you're shooting, how you're shooting, some of the things you notice, because you're going to notice some of your ammo that everybody says shoots great at 850 or 960. You're going to shoot it out of your gun, and it's not going to look that great. And you're like, what the heck? And you're like, why is it doing this? Well, do you have a side wind? Do you have a front wind? Do you have something messing it up? There's a lot of things to this. There's just general rules, but you're going to have to work that out on your gun. You're going to have to really kind of painstakingly log through things, and you'll get it worked out to where you know the days you can shoot, and you know what kind of ammo you want to shoot, and that's going to give you the best results. So there it is, guys, a dozen things. I know this is probably, and this is the most basic as I can get. This really is. There's so much more to shooting in the wind, shooting with all this stuff. That, got about a dozen things. Probably made some people disappointed or depressed. They have to go out and buy a bunch of gear, acquire it slowly, borrow it, garage sale it, do something. It's not that bad. But if you really want to get serious about shooting 200 and 300 yards at 10 cans and stuff like that, it's a lot of fun. Once you get it figured out, it's amazing that it works as well as it does. But comments, questions, concerns down below, guys, and you can hit that subscribe button. I guess they always tell me to do something like that anyway. But hopefully I will see you next week.